Hey, and welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to help two different people. The first person is someone who hasn't signed up to Zapier yet, and they're thinking about it and they're wondering about the costs. And the second person is someone who's already signed up to Zapier, and maybe their costs have gotten a bit higher than they expected. So this video is going to help both of you to understand the costs and also how to keep your costs down within the budget that you expected. Just a quick side note before we jump right into it. This video looks a little bit different because it's actually taken from a mini course that I shot a little while back, and now I wanted to share on my channel so everyone could learn and benefit from it. What I'm going to talk about in this video is I'm going to be showing you what a setup of a Zap looks like, because in the previous video we just gave an overview of what Zapier does in general and kind of showing you all the cool different apps it can connect with and how you can work out if Zapier potentially doesn't support an app. So that's also how you can have better conversations with freelancers when you are saying to them, can this be done? Can this be done? And they're saying yes, but you do your own research and it says no. You can kind of start looking out for those things already. So in this video, what I'm going to show you is, again, an actual setup of a Zap. But what I'm going to be talking about is when it comes to looking for a freelancer and just knowing for yourself how to create Zaps in the most efficient way. Because I'm going to start from this very top step of how does the pricing and plans work in Zapier? Because obviously that correlates directly to money. And if you setting up things in a bad way, or the person you're hiring is set it in an inefficient way, it can impact how much you're paying each month. So on Zapier, you have these general plans. So you have the free plan, you have the starter, professional, team, company, etc., etc. But goes a step further. You can see here on the drop downs, it says tasks per month. And I'm going to show you how this correlates to actual Zaps and why I'm bringing it up in regards to efficiency and knowing that you're hiring someone who's going to do it the right way, in an optimized way, and save you money. Because let's say you're on the starter pack, that gives you access to a certain number of types of Zaps and certain numbers of actions and things you can do with the Zaps. But if you increase the task count, your price goes up. Like, it pretty much doubles. So if you double your tasks, it pretty much doubles the cost per month. And if you're on the professional plan, and again, you double, goes from 49 to 89. So already you start paying $500-$600 more a year. Or if you're on a team and you're doing 50,000 tasks, you go up to 100,000. Now you're saving or spending close to another $1,500 a year if you're potentially not doing things the right way. So that's already something to keep in mind. Like, let's say you are looking to go hire a freelancer and you're just on the free plan. They might say to you, and this will be very common, is we need to be on the premium plan or at least a non-free plan, because certain apps only integrate with paid plans of Zapier, and Zapier only offers some functionalities on the paid plans, and certain actions you get on the paid plans aren't available on the free plans. And because they aren't available on the free plans, it increases your costs because you have to do things in a certain way. So it's a bit of a trade-off, but this is just something to keep in mind, that someone might say to you, like, are you on a free plan or a paid plan? A lot of the time you need to be on a paid plan, at least the minimum of a starter one. But a lot of the time, the professional plan is going to be a better starting point, even if it's at the lowest cost. So how this correlates to actual Zaps and when they're set up is, let's say we're in a Zap right now, and this Zap has a trigger, which, if you remember from the previous lesson, that is what starts the Zap. That starts the flow of action. So it's the part of, if this happens, it's that part. And then the do these things, that's that next part. So you can see here, I've got, after the trigger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional steps. These are called actions and tasks. And this is how it actually relates to the tasks that I was showing you on the pricing and plans page, is that each of these is a task. So triggers aren't a task, but every step afterwards gets counted as a task. So let's say you create a Zap that has these 5 steps after the trigger. Each time this run, your tasks are going up by 5. And obviously, if you reach that limit for your account, you're going to have to go to another plan, or your Zaps are just going to stop working. And this is also important to keep in mind, because let's say you have a Zap that's triggering a lot. Like you have maybe a very active CRM, and you have a Zap that's triggering based on when a record is updated in your CRM, and there's like 10 tasks in that. You might just plow through your limits within a few days if you have set up a Zap with too many steps. So that's now leading back to how you can keep this in mind for cutting down your costs, and also when you're hiring someone. Because let's say you have someone who's kind of newish with Zapier, they might set things up with way too many steps. And also, if you set it up yourself, you might set up with way too many steps, and you're going to plow through your task limit potentially if you have a Zap that's going off a lot, a trigger that's going off a lot, like I was saying, calendar booking or updated record in the CRM. And something to look out for when you're hiring someone as a freelancer to help you with the automations is a great question to ask is, do they know a bit of Python or JavaScript? So these are coding languages, which you don't need to know. Again, I'm just educating you on things you need to know that you can have better discussions and know what to look out for. So if they know a bit of coding, so Python or JavaScript, this is when you start to get awareness of more of the kind of top tier freelancers in automation and coding, in automation and Zapier and these other automation platforms, because a lot of the time you do need to know a bit of code to do these, to do things a bit more efficiently. Like in this example, we have these 3 steps, but with a bit of coding knowledge, because Zapier allows you to add code blocks, so you can literally do a proper bit of coding. But even with a bit of knowledge, you can completely combine all 3 of these steps into one code block. And then we take our full Zap setup from the 5 steps that we previously had just down to 3. And obviously, if something's only triggering a handful of times a day, this isn't really much to worry about. But like I said, if we have something that's really high volume and it's been set up this first way where each time you're having 3-4 additional steps being triggered when it could just be all pulled into a single code block, you can see where the savings and efficiencies are going to come. It might take you from a higher paid plan down to the previous paid plan. Now you're suddenly saving $500 to $1,000 a year that you can spend on more marketing or bringing on someone to help with other parts of your business. So that's very important to keep in mind. And also the reason I bring up a bit of the code and stuff when I spoke about asking the freelancer or someone you might be working with, do they know a bit of code? Have they worked with the code blocks? Have they worked with Python or JavaScript? Is because this goes back to the discussion we had in the first video of sometimes Zaps just aren't integrated with Zapier. If maybe they're a bit less known and you're using one of those CRMs that maybe isn't as popular as some of the Salesforces and the big ones we're talking about, they might still have a way to be integrated with. It just so happens that Zapier doesn't support that. So where a bit of coding knowledge also comes into play is if you ask someone, do they know Python? Do they know JavaScript? Have they worked with APIs before? That's also going to give you a lot better knowledge of, could they potentially almost create a bit of a custom integration for me with this application that isn't supported by Zapier? Because if it isn't supported by Zapier, that's essentially almost the only way to do the integration then is, does this software that you want to integrate with have an API? And that requires a bit of coding knowledge. So again, I'm not going into the nitty-gritty details, but that's something else to keep in mind. And it relates back to the first video of, if an app isn't available on Zapier, does it have an API? Which you don't need to worry about. You just need to know when you speak to the freelancer, you can say to them, do you know a bit of coding? And can you check if this has an API? Or this is what I want to integrate with. I don't know if it has an API. Is it possible? Yes or no? So these are the types of conversations you're going to be able to have a lot better once you finish working through this course and have a bit of this overview and this knowledge. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, this is just about educating you to be able to have the correct conversations and you have a better understanding of how these things all work and fit together.